Okay, so we'll start off a little bit of backstory on Beast Tamer. Chase, the Beast Tamer, was first introduced in version 145 in the Beast Tamer update back in January of 2014. Now, it's important to know that the Beast Tamer, along with her home region of Arborin, which is within Dawnvale, was designed by China's version of MapleStory. And CMS doesn't have the best track record of designing content, and so when Beast Tamer was introduced to the game, the class quests were incredibly tedious and extremely long. And while the quests try to tie into the larger Maple World's pre-existing lore, it seems like they took quite a few liberties with their storytelling. Regardless of how I feel about the content though, just a few months later, in version 150, the Rising Heroes Elite update in June of 2014, a lot of MapleStory's content was closed and removed, stated to undergo renovations. And as of making this video, it's been about 5.5 years, and some of the content still hasn't been renovated, reworked, or even reopened. One of the areas that was actually reworked happened to be Kerning Square. Now, this is relevant because Kerning Square actually held quite a number of the Beast Tamer quests, and when it was removed in version 150, those Beast Tamer quests were also completely removed. So imagine that you're one of the very few people actually playing Beast Tamer and actually doing the class quests for the story. You get to a certain point, and there's just a massive chunk of the storyline missing because the content has been removed. Though you still continue on to the quests that follow after Kerning Square. If that wasn't bad enough though, if we fast forward all the way to the version 206 Pathfinder Squadron of Heroes update, which was in July of 2019, you'll find that the Beast Tamer's class quests after the initial Arborin area have pretty much just straight up all been removed. I assume this has to do more with KMS trying to clean up the CMS development of Dawnvale by basically removing all mention of the continent and all traces of anything related to it, as we're now seeing with the Tynerum removals of version 210. But regardless of all of that, the content and the questlines did exist in the game at one point. While I'm not going to go over the whole Beast Tamer questline, I do want to cover the relevant parts related to Tristan and the Cursed Sanctuary, which is deep beneath Sleepywood. So, as you've been completing missions for the Cygnus Knights, Mihail has a mission for you to retrieve Tristan's sword in Sleepywood. You end up traveling to Sleepywood and you speak with the excavation leader, who's a little upset that the Maple Alliance had sent a child like Chase to assist him. I want to reiterate that these quests were extremely tedious, so there is a ton of back and forth and a lot of just stupid quests. But the common theme here is that the excavation team managed to lose a lot of their equipment to the Drakes. You end up helping the miners retrieve their tools in exchange for their aid in finding Tristan's sword. Eventually, you're led to the Cursed Sanctuary entrance, where the excavation team was planning to venture deeper once they had gotten their equipment back, and you happen to find Triple Volt there, posing as excavator assistants, stealing gear and relics and stuff. In addition to their thefts, they're also planning on finding Tristan's sword, but when the Goon Squad notices you and the Critter Champs, they just quickly make an escape. With the excavation leader, Doug, at the entrance now, and the rest of the excavation team heading inside, he tells you that Mina discovered that there are 3 potential places where the sword might be buried beyond, but they're not sure which one is the correct spot. Also, the monsters have eaten the keys. You end up fighting wild cargos, Taro maces, and Taro spears while finding Tristan's key fragments, collecting enough to piece it together. Both Canary and Mina help you reconstruct the keys, which they try on the first 2 doors, but they just don't work. Mudry helps you with the last key, and as you finally open the correct door, the sound of rocks crumbling echoes around you. Mudry wimps out and doesn't proceed inside with you, but he tells you to take the sword to Doug once you find it, as he's been dying to see it. So you head inside, and somehow Team Rocket is already there, using a pickaxe to break a chest. I don't know why you just sit there and you watch them for half an hour before they finally notice you, but eventually they hop in their Driller 5 mech, just like Team Rocket would, and I guess they go blasting off again once you defeat them, because they just kind of disappear. Anyway, you do end up finding Tristan's treasure, which has Tristan's sword. And Eka doesn't find it remarkable at all. The item description for it reads, Tristan's old sword. You found this after you defeated Triple Volt, but something's amiss. Take it to Doug. As you're heading out, Tristan's spirit appears and he asks who dare approach his sword without permission. Literally nothing comes out of it though, because you don't even respond to him, and you just simply head all the way back to Sleepywood to meet with Doug. He looks over the scabbard, trying to unsheath the blade, but he can't. You try as well, but it's also too difficult, and Fort tries to pull it out and ends up breaking the sword, leaving only the sheath's remains. You don't seem all that worried about it though. All Doug says is that it's a shame that the sword has crumbled to rusty dust, but that's kind of what happens when you stick a metal thing inside of a cave for over a decade. And then he has you return to Mihao with it. In actuality, you don't ever return to Mihao. You go to Nineheart instead, who is still hanging out with Phantom and Evan. You deliver the scabbard, though Phantom says it's not much, but an artifact is an artifact. They bicker amongst themselves about unrelated things, and then that's about it. Now obviously, the Beast Tamer quests are some of the most poorly made quests in the game. They made use of a lot of existing characters and areas, and while the concept behind Chase's story is actually interesting, it's implemented extremely poorly with the terrible writing, and even disregards a lot of the lore. A lot of it reads kind of like the dialogue of a children's show, but even though I dislike nearly all of it, I still don't believe in removing content from the game. I've never liked or enjoyed the thought of not being able to access content, regardless of how terrible it is, and so removing pretty much almost all of Beast Tamer's class quests, it's really disappointing to me. I don't think I really need to even explain what's wrong with these quests as they pertain to Tristan's Gladius. I mean, it should be fairly obvious, but if you don't know the story of his sword, I'd suggest that you go and watch the Manji videos I made a couple months ago. But yeah, that's about it for the Beast Tamer lore in regards to the Cursed Sanctuary and Tristan's sword. If you want to subscribe and click the little bell icon, you can get a notification for when I actually do get around to making another video. Also, if you enjoy any of the lore, share the videos with your friends or something, because it would actually help a lot. But anyway, if there's anything important that I'm missing, let me know.